They buried me long before I ever died. Not in the ground, but in the way people stopped saying my name. For years, I was the whisper no one spoke aloud in my hometown of Cedar Hollow, North Carolina. If you drove down Main Street in the early 2000s, you'd find my old house sitting quiet at the end of the road, shutters closed, garden overgrown, mailbox rusted. Everyone thought I was gone for good. And for a while, I thought so too. When I left, I didn't take much. Just a suitcase, a handful of letters I couldn't throw away, and a heart that had stopped believing home could mean safety. I was 38 then, married to a man who knew how to smile in public and punish in private. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. Church on Sundays, barbecue on Fridays, pictures in the paper after every charity event. But no one ever saw the bruises that didn't show on skin, the kind that grow in silence, the kind you carry in your bones. One night, after too many years of quiet endurance, I packed that suitcase and left. No note, no explanation, just gone. People love a mystery when it's not their pain to live through. By morning, the rumors started. She ran off with someone. She lost her mind. She probably couldn't handle her own mistakes. And when weeks turned to months, Cedar Hollow moved on. They forgot I ever lived there, except in whispers when someone wanted to warn their daughters about what happens when women get too emotional. For 20 years, I built a life somewhere else. A small apartment in Wilmington, a job at a library, quiet and safe. People knew me only as Miss Claire, and that was enough. I told myself I'd never go back. Not to the house, not to the people who believed the worst, not to the man who'd made me afraid of my own voice. But life has a way of calling you home, right when you think you've outrun the echoes. It was a letter that did it, the kind written by hand, with shaky cursive and too many tears in the ink. It was from my sister, Evelyn. He's gone, Claire. He asked for you before he passed. He said he wanted to ask your forgiveness. Tell me in the comments, have you ever left a place, not because you wanted to, but because staying would have destroyed you? I sat at my kitchen table for hours, the letter trembling in my hands. Part of me wanted to throw it away. The other part, the one that still believed in redemption, wanted to see what 20 years of silence might sound like when spoken out loud. The next morning, I packed a new suitcase, same color as the one I left with all those years ago. And as the bus rolled past the sign that said, "Welcome to Cedar Hollow," I realized forgiveness wasn't something you mailed from far away. You had to carry it back yourself. The bus dropped me off at the old train station on a warm spring afternoon. The air smelled like honeysuckle and old rain, the same way it had 20 years ago when I left. Nothing much had changed in Cedar Hollow. The diner still had the same flickering neon sign, the same gas station with hand-painted prices, and the same gossip that traveled faster than the wind. I stood on that cracked sidewalk with my suitcase in hand and wondered if the ground remembered me. My sister Evelyn picked me up in her faded blue pickup. When I saw her, I froze. She had more gray now, more lines around her eyes, but the way she said my name, Claire, it cracked something open in me. We didn't hug right away. We just stood there for a moment, two women who'd loved each other through silence. On the drive home, she kept glancing at me like I might vanish again if she blinked too long. "You look good," she said. "So do you." I lied gently. She smiled. "The town's gone tog. They always did, I replied. When we reached the old house, my breath caught. The paint was peeling, the shutters hanging loose, but the porch swing was still there, the same one I used to sit on during summer storms, listening to thunder and wishing I could be anywhere else. Inside, everything felt smaller. The walls carried years of arguments, and the air still smelt faintly of the past. "He's gone," Evelyn said softly, setting my bag down. "Heart failure. He went fast." I nodded. My throat tightened, not from grief, but from the weight of what was never said. We sat in the kitchen, the same one where he used to slam doors and shout over nothing. Evelyn poured coffee, her hands shaking. "He told the preacher he wanted to see you. He said you didn't deserve what he did to you. Said you were the best thing that ever happened to him." I stared at the steam rising from my cup. It felt cruel, the idea that peace could come so late it didn't even feel like peace anymore. Tell me in the comments, have you ever found yourself standing in the same place that once broke you and felt stronger instead? A voice startled me. "You're back." I turned. It was Pastor Green, the same preacher who'd married us. He looked older now, thinner, his voice softer. "He said I wasn't sure I'd ever see you again." "Neither was I," I replied. He sat beside me, his hands folded like prayer. "He said your name every Sunday for the last few months. He said if he couldn't see you again, he hoped God would let you hear him." I didn't answer. The light from the stained glass fell across my hands. Red, gold, and blue, like forgiveness itself, trying to find me. "I'm not here for him," I said finally. "I'm here for me." The pastor nodded. "That's what forgiveness really is, Claire." When I stepped out, the sun was setting behind the lake. The air shimmered with heat and memory, and for the first time in 20 years, I didn't feel like I was running. I was finally walking toward something, even if it was just peace. The next morning, I woke to the sound of rain on the roof. It was soft, steady, the kind of rain that doesn't rush you, it just listens. For a moment, I almost believed I was 38 again, still living here, still trying to hold a marriage together with silence and hope. But then I saw the packed suitcase by the door and remembered, this time, I had come back on my own terms. Evelyn was already in the kitchen, making biscuits the way Mama used to. She glanced up as I came in. "You didn't sleep much," she said. "I wasn't planning to," I told her. She slid a cup of coffee toward me. "They're talking, you know. Words all over town." I smiled faintly. "Let them talk. They always needed something to whisper about." She hesitated. "Some folks said you shouldn't have come back, that it'll stir things up." "Maybe it's time something did stir," I said quietly. "It's been 20 years of pretending." That afternoon, I walked into town. The streets were smaller than I remembered, or maybe I'd just grown. At the grocery store, I saw faces I used to know, neighbors, old classmates, people who'd shared potluck dinners and pitying glances. Some turned away, some stared, but one woman, Mrs. Turner, who'd lived across from me back then, came right up and hugged me. "Claire, I thought you were dead." "I was," I said softly, "just not the way people think." Her eyes filled. "He told us you left him for another man." "I left to save my own life." The words hung in the air between us like something sacred. She nodded, tears running down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, honey. We all failed you." The next day, I went to the cemetery. Evelyn had said he was buried beside our parents. I almost laughed at the irony. Even in death, he wanted to keep watch. The sky was gray, the grass still damp from rain. I stood there a long time staring at the headstone, his name, the dates, and the short line beneath it, "Forever in our hearts." I didn't bring flowers. I brought truth. "I thought I'd hate you forever," I said quietly, "but hate takes more from me than you ever did." Tell me in the comments, have you ever realized forgiveness wasn't for the one who hurt you, but for the one who survived it? I knelt down, pressed my hand against the cold stone, and whispered, "I forgive you. Not because you asked, but because I can't keep carrying what you left behind." And just like that, something shifted inside me. A stillness, a weight lifting after years of quiet grief. As I walked back to the car, I saw Pastor Green waiting near the gate. He held an umbrella, though he wasn't using it. "You went to see him," he said. I did. "Did you find what you came for?" I thought about it. "No," I said softly, "but I found what I needed." He smiled, that small, knowing smile that comes from living long enough to see pain turn into wisdom. "Then you found forgiveness," he said. When I got back home, Evelyn was sitting on the porch with a box in her lap. She said, "I found this in the attic." Inside were old photos, wedding pictures, letters, and a stack of yellowed clippings. At the bottom was a small, unopened envelope. My name, written across it in his handwriting. My heart stumbled. I hadn't seen his writing since the divorce papers. Evelyn looked at me gently. "You don't have to read it." "I think I do," I whispered. That night, after she'd gone to bed, I sat in the kitchen alone and opened it. The letter was short, trembling handwriting. No excuses, no explanations. "Claire, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I hope you live long enough to find peace. I see now that love without kindness isn't love at all. Robert." I folded the paper, set it beside my coffee cup, and cried. Not for him, not even for what I'd lost, but for the woman I used to be, who thought she'd never find her way home again. Because she had. And this time, she wasn't running from the past. She was releasing it. Morning came quietly, wrapped in mist and birdsong. The kind of Carolina morning that smells like dew and second chances. I sat on the porch with a blanket over my shoulders, watching sunlight creep across the grass. The letter from Robert lay folded in my lap, and beside it, the courage to let it rest. For the first time in 20 years, I wasn't haunted by what had happened here. The ghosts had names, the pain had shape, and none of it scared me anymore. Evelyn came out with 2 cups of coffee, her hair still messy from sleep. "You stayin' a while?" she asked. I smiled. "For a bit. I think this old town still has something to teach me." She laughed softly. "It missed you, you know, even if it didn't know how to say it." "I missed it too," I said, "but I had to come back as someone new." Later that day, I walked through the main street again. People wave now, not out of gossip, but out of recognition. Maybe they didn't know what I'd survived, but they could see something in my eyes had changed. At the diner, Mrs. Turner brought me pie on the house. "Welcome home, sweetheart," she said, smiling through tears. And for once, I didn't correct her. Because maybe home isn't where you're unbroken. It's where you decide to forgive yourself for breaking. Tell me in the comments, have you ever gone back to a place you swore you'd never return, only to realize you were finally strong enough to stand there again? That evening, I visited the lake one last time. The church bell rang in the distance, its echo rolling softly across the water. I sat on the old dock, my reflection rippling beneath me, and whispered the kind of prayer that isn't meant for heaven, just for the soul to hear itself again. Thank you, I said to no one in particular, for the pain, for the lessons, for letting me come home to myself. A soft wind blew, carrying the scent of lilac from somewhere behind me. For a heartbeat, it felt like the past was exhaling. I reached into my bag and pulled out the letter one last time, folded it neatly, and let it go. The paper drifting across the lake, floating farther and farther away until the water swallowed it whole. Not out of anger, not even grief, but peace. That night, before bed, Evelyn asked, "What'll you do now?" "I don't know," I said, smiling. "Maybe I'll stay a while. Maybe I'll teach the young girls in town how to write their own stories before someone else writes them for them." She laughed softly. "That sounds like something you were born to do." "Maybe," I said, "but this time I'm doing it on my terms." And when I lay down that night, I didn't dream about leaving anymore. I dreamed about light, pouring through the trees, turning everything gold. Because sometimes forgiveness doesn't mean saying it's okay. It means saying, "I'm okay now." And I was. Because here, on True Life Stories, we don't just tell stories, we remember them. Subscribe, stay with us, and help the silence end one true story at a time.